The flight had barely taken off when the mood inside the cabin shifted. People were settling in, kids were dozing off, and flight attendants were starting their routine. But then a tense voice rose from the middle rows, pulling everyone's attention in that direction. A white passenger was standing, angry about something no one fully understood, while a young black boy sat frozen in his seat. At first it looked like a simple misunderstanding, the kind that happens on crowded planes. But within seconds, the situation escalated in a way no one expected. Passengers exchanged uneasy looks. Some reached for their call buttons, others tried to calm the man down, but the tension kept building. The boy's mother tried to step in, her voice trembling. The flight attendants hurried over, yet whatever they said only seemed to make the man more frustrated. And then, something happened that made the entire plane fall into complete silence and action so sudden that every heartbeat seemed to stop. For a moment, no one knew what would come next. People were torn between fear, anger, and disbelief. And as the cabin went still, everyone realized this flight was about to take a turn none of them would ever forget. The silence lingered in the cabin, heavy enough that even the hum of the engines felt distant. The man's outburst hadn't come out of nowhere, but no one understood what had pushed him to that point. A few passengers whispered that it started with a simple seat mix-up. Others said he'd been tense since boarding. The young boy, still shaken, kept his eyes down, clutching the armrest like it was the only thing keeping him stable. His mother tried to wrap an arm around him, but her voice was barely steady. A flight attendant gently asked the man to sit back down, reminding him that the captain needed calm in the cabin, but he refused, muttering under his breath and pointing toward the boy as if he believed something had been done to him. People glanced at each other, unsure what he was talking about. The confusion only made the situation feel more unsettling. Meanwhile, the boy's mother kept explaining that they hadn't taken anyone's seat, that they were just trying to get through the flight like everyone else. But the man wouldn't listen. His frustration seemed rooted in something deeper, something none of the passengers could see. That tension grew as more passengers started paying closer attention, each trying to make sense of what they were witnessing. A man across the aisle leaned forward, quietly asking the boy if he was okay. The boy nodded, though his eyes were still filled with fear. A woman a few rows back began recording, not out of excitement, but out of worry that things might get worse. Even she looked unsure if she should keep filming or put her phone down and step in. The flight attendants whispered among themselves, trying to decide whether to alert the captain. One of them, a younger attendant with nervous hands, kept glancing toward the front cabin, as if expecting instructions that weren't coming fast enough. Another attendant approached the man again, trying to calm him with a softer tone, but his jaw stayed tight. He kept insisting that something had been taken from him, something important, though no one understood what he meant. Meanwhile, a man near the window who had been quiet since boarding spoke up for the first time. He claimed he had seen the angry passenger searching his bags before takeoff, looking unsettled even then. His voice added a new layer to the confusion, making people question what the real issue was. With every passing moment, uncertainty filled the air. No one knew whether the man was acting out of fear, misunderstanding, or something he wasn't saying out loud. And as the plane continued through the clouds, it felt like everyone was bracing for the next moment, whatever it might be. The air inside the cabin felt tighter with every passing second, as if the plane itself sensed the rising tension. The man's voice grew louder, though he still refused to explain what he believed had happened. His hands shook as he pointed again toward the boy, insisting that someone had touched his belongings during boarding. Passengers shifted uncomfortably, looking from the man to the boy, trying to piece together a puzzle with too many missing parts. A flight attendant finally stepped between them, her tone firm but calm. She asked the man to lower his voice, reminding him that the situation was scaring other passengers. But he only grew more agitated, pacing in the narrow aisle as if searching for something that kept slipping through his fingers. The boy's mother held her son close, whispering that everything would be okay, even though her own voice cracked with worry. In the back, a passenger pressed the call button, asking if the captain needed to make an emergency announcement. Another suggested moving the man to an empty seat, though no one knew if that would help or make things worse. Even the quiet man near the window watched the aisle with a tense expression, as if he knew something he wasn't ready to share. The man suddenly stopped pacing and turned sharply toward the boy, drawing a collective gasp from the cabin. The flight attendants rushed forward, passengers leaned in, and for a heartbeat the entire plane felt suspended in uncertainty, everyone waiting for the moment that would push everything toward the breaking point. Just as the man faced the boy, ready to speak or explode, a sudden alert tone chimed from the overhead speakers. Everyone froze. A flight attendant tapped her earpiece, her expression shifting from stress to something even more unsettling. She looked toward the front of the plane, then hurriedly whispered to the crew. Whatever she heard wasn't about turbulence or routine safety. This was something else. The captain requested the lead attendant to the cockpit immediately. Passengers exchanged uneasy glances. It felt like the timing was too strange, almost connected to the confrontation happening in the aisle. The angry man snapped his head toward the front, confusion replacing some of his rage. He muttered that the timing wasn't a coincidence, that someone on board was setting him up. His voice trembled now, not with anger, but with a kind of fear that made the atmosphere even heavier. Then another twist surfaced, the quiet man by the window who had barely spoken until now stood up slowly. He asked the flight attendants to check the overhead bins near the angry passenger's seat. His tone was steady, but the urgency in his eyes made people lean in. He said he saw something earlier, something the crew needed to verify before things got out of hand. The attendants hesitated, then reached up to open the bin. What they found made several passengers gasp, and the angry man stepped back as if the floor had shifted beneath him. Inside the overhead bin sat the item the man had been shouting about the entire flight, a small black pouch. But it wasn't the pouch itself that shocked everyone. It was the fact that it had been tucked far behind other bags, nowhere near the boy or his mother. The attendants pulled it out carefully, and the man's eyes widened. His anger faded into confusion, then embarrassment, as he realized the pouch hadn't been taken at all. It had simply slipped deep into the bin during takeoff. The boy's mother let out a shaky breath, relieved but still holding her son close. Passengers murmured, some whispering that the confrontation had spiraled for no reason. The quiet man by the window explained he'd seen the pouch fall before the plane even left the gate, but hadn't known whose it was. The man finally sat down, no longer shouting, just stunned by how badly things had escalated. The crew assured everyone the situation was under control, and the captain confirmed the alert was unrelated, just a technical check. The cabin slowly relaxed, tension lifting like fog breaking apart. But just when everyone thought the drama was over, the flight attendant, examining the pouch, paused. She looked inside, frowned, and called the man forward. Something was in there that didn't match his story at all, and the expression on his face said he hadn't expected it either. The attendant held out the pouch, revealing a small envelope inside, one that clearly didn't belong to the man. His confused reaction made it obvious he hadn't seen it before. Inside the envelope was a note from the airline, explaining it was part of a random customer feedback program. It must have slipped into his pouch accidentally during luggage handling. The misunderstanding finally made sense, and the man let out a long, embarrassed sigh. He apologized quietly to the boy and his mother, his voice softer than it had been the entire flight. The boy accepted the apology with a small nod, still shaken but relieved the tension was finally over. His mother thanked the passengers who had stepped in to help, grateful that kindness had outnumbered fear. The quiet man returned to his seat, and the cabin slowly settled into a calm rhythm again, as people reflected on how quickly assumptions can lead to chaos. As the plane descended toward its destination, the atmosphere felt lighter, almost peaceful. Passengers whispered about the lesson hidden in the chaos. Sometimes the real conflict isn't between people, but between fear and understanding. And as the wheels touched down, everyone carried with them a reminder of how quickly things can change, and how important it is to stay calm, even when the sky feels uncertain.